Oh my goodness, guys, a big investment bank out of Europe is predicting that Apple will acquire Tesla in 2019. This would be arguably the biggest acquisition in the history of mankind. I want to go ahead and look at the report on why they believe that Apple will go ahead and acquire Tesla, guys. Then we got to answer some questions here, okay? Is it even possible from a regulation standpoint? Would the governments allow this? From a money standpoint, could Apple actually buy Tesla? Would it make sense for Apple to buy Tesla? Would it make sense for Tesla to sell out to Apple? Okay, we're going to talk about how realistic this would be if it happens in 2019. Like, what's the possibility? Like a 5% chance, a 50% chance? Like, how possible is this? Okay, would I want this? So my wife is a big shareholder of Apple. I'm a big shareholder of Tesla. It's the best of both worlds. Would I want something like this to happen? Would I want Apple to acquire Tesla? And if this did happen, if this move did happen in 2019, what would I go ahead and do? Okay, I want to talk about all this. So first off, let's look at this report here. So Saxo Bank speculates on an Apple-Tesla link-up. Saxo Bank has added Apple buying Tesla to its list of outrageous predictions for 2019. They say Apple has a financial strength to fulfill Elon Musk's wildest dreams, ensuring that Tesla doesn't have to balance capital expenditures to cash flow generation in the short term. They also go on to say that Apple realizes that if it wants to deepen its reach into the lives of its user base, the next frontier is the automobile as cars become more digitally connected. After all, the late Steve Jobs showed that a company needs to bet big and to bet wild to avoid complacency and irrelevancy. The Saxo prediction is that Apple secures funding at $520 a share for Tesla, okay? This would be a sellout for $520 they're predicting that Tesla would actually sell out for, okay? That's a substantial premium for where Tesla shares are trading at right now, around the $360 mark. So that's a pretty big move there, okay? Now, as far as the actual stock prices of each of these stocks, the last couple months have obviously been rough for Apple. It was around $230 just a couple months ago, and now we're looking at about $176 stock. So obviously in the short term, it's been rough, but to be fair, it's been rough for a lot of stocks out there. As far as Tesla, it's a complete opposite. Just a month or two ago, this was a stock trading around $260 a share, and despite the market being incredibly weak, Tesla stock has just absolutely exploded, now around $360, a massive, massive move in about a month or two span, especially when you consider how weak the markets have been over the last few months, okay? So here's the deal. We got to talk about how, if this deal is even possible, okay? Is it possible from a regulation and money standpoint? First off, from a regulation standpoint, here's what we have. We have two U.S. companies, okay? Two U.S. companies and two companies that are in very, very different businesses. Tesla, obviously being more automobile related and energy products in the future, right? Apple being smartphones and computers and things like that. Two very, very different businesses and two businesses that are U.S. based. So from a regulation standpoint, there's no question this would have a very easy time getting through, okay? The type of deals that would be very hard to get through is something like, imagine if like UPS tried to buy FedEx or something, two companies that almost have a monopoly on shipping try to acquire each other, like the government wouldn't allow something like that. However, two companies, even though they're tech, they're so far different business models that the government would have no problem allowing that to go through. And the fact that they're both US based makes it that much easier. So from a regulation standpoint, without question, this is a very easy deal to get done if it was to happen, okay? From a money perspective, could this deal go through? So Tesla at $520 a share, that would probably put it at somewhere around an $80 billion valuation, $80 to $90 billion. Apple could acquire them overnight without a problem, okay? Apple has $240 billion in cash just sitting on their balance sheet. So if you're thinking about it from a money perspective, like Apple could pull it off, they wouldn't even have to take out debt. Now, if Apple wanted to take out debt to acquire them, they could easily do that at an unbelievably low interest rate. So money-wise, it's not even a question. Apple could do it either through debt or just buy them cash out like nothing, okay? Even at a huge premium, like a $520 premium. So if you're asking, is it possible? Absolutely. From a regulation standpoint and money perspective, it's very easy to pull off, all right? Now, would it make sense for either side? Let's think about this. We got to think about it from, with the shoes on each company's foot, okay? From Apple's perspective, would it make sense? Yes and no. First off, on the no perspective, Apple's in a business model where they like to send small things, computer things around that you know, they don't even make the devices themselves, okay? They you know, obviously incorporate the chips, they design everything, but in terms of does Apple actually, you know, put the devices together and all that type of stuff? No, they outsource all that to a company named Foxconn and Pegatron out in China. They're the ones that put all their devices together, the computers, the, you know, the iPads, the phones, everything. Tesla's business model is Tesla employees actually put the cars together each and every day, okay? Very different business models, and it's a very capital intensive business model that Tesla has. So if Apple's looking at it from that perspective, it would be definitely a negative for them. However, on the flip side, Apple could look at this as, you know, Tesla's growing massively right now. They should continue to grow massively. Hey, we have the funding, we have the money to go ahead and fulfill everything that Elon Musk wants to do. You got a really brilliant management team as far as building brands over there. We know Apple loves brands. Tesla has an amazing brand, right? So from Apple's perspective, it's kind of like, yeah, we don't love this, but at the same time, we could see we could make a lot of money off this, and we could, you know, maybe even build things faster, okay? Now, from Tesla's perspective, once again, this is kind of a yes and no. One is, yeah, Apple has unlimited resources, right? So you know, whatever they want to do, they could go ahead and use that money. However, I think Elon Musk, I don't know if Elon Musk wants to be, you know, the second tier within a company. I'm not sure he would want to do that, right? Also, I'm not sure how confident he would be that Apple would want to fund all the projects, especially if it was a project that lost, let's say, billions of dollars. You know, Tesla has taken big losses in the past to go ahead and build up. We're not sure if Apple would want to do that. Usually when Apple launches products or services or things, they almost start making money immediately from those things. So we're not sure about that. Also, if you're looking at it from the perspective of some of Tesla shareholders, many Tesla shareholders believe Tesla is going to be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, even $4,000 stock within 5 to 10 years. So selling out at $520 here in the short term, a lot of investors that are in the stock for the long term, next 5, 10 plus years, that believe the stock is going to be, you know, worth, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars into the future, if not $1 trillion someday. Those type of investors are going to might not end up voting for an acquisition like this, okay? So does it make sense from both sides? A little bit yes, a little bit no. It's not like it's a smash success for either side, because both sides would not get exactly what they want for this, okay? Now, how realistic is this that it happens in 2019? I would say like less than a 3% chance a move like this actually happens in 2019. Could there be talks behind everybody's back? Absolutely, there could be talks between both companies. But if I'm looking at it, how realistic is it that a deal gets done like this? I'm like maybe like a less than a 3% chance, a 2 or a 3% chance, somewhere in there. Because here's the thing, guys, these type of acquisitions, it's so big and transformational. And Elon Musk has to think about it in the respect of, could this ruin Tesla? It's a risk, okay? It's a risk. Could it hurt Tesla's brand long term? Could, you know, Tesla or could Apple end up wanting to defund some of the project because maybe they don't see the vision there, but Elon Musk sees the vision there. So from Elon Musk's perspective, it's a risk. And then if you're looking at it from Apple's perspective, Tim Cook and those folks over there, they could look at it as a risk for them. We know Elon Musk has done some eccentric behavior, obviously, in the past, right? And we know Elon Musk likes to fund some big projects out there that obviously, you know, take a long time to pay off. And from a Tesla's profitability standpoint, it just barely started making money. So it's definitely a risk for both companies. These are such a hard acquisition. When you're talking 80, 90 billion dollars, you're talking about this would be one of the biggest acquisitions in the history of mankind, okay? Unbelievable on this type of scale. These things don't usually happen. So if I was giving it like a realistic standpoint, I would say a very, very, very small chance a deal like this could actually end up going down in 2019, okay? Now, would I want this? Would I want this? From, you know what, I'm a little bit, I mean, it would be nice to take a massive profit in a very short amount of time. Absolutely, in Tesla. That would be amazing. However, I believe Tesla has so much upside over the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not the biggest fan of it, okay? So I would be okay, but I wouldn't be like, oh yes, I'm so happy they got acquired or something, because I just believe the company has so much, upside by itself over the long term, okay? Then the question is, if this actually went down, what would I end up doing? What I would personally do is, obviously, I would take my huge profit that I would, the shares would get bought out for, okay? I go ahead and sell those shares, and then I would go ahead and buy Apple stock with that money. So basically, then at that point, I get the beautiful business model, which I feel like Apple's business model is undervalued right now as it is today, okay? It's undervalued, just Apple's business model is undervalued as it is today if you have any type of long-term perspective on it, a 3, a 5, a 10-year perspective on this, okay? But then also, if you buy Apple and you're getting the growth opportunity that is Tesla there, that is huge, guys. That is absolutely huge. So when I look at it from that perspective, what would I do? I would sell out my Tesla shares, take the huge profit, and I would refund that money right into to Apple stock. And honestly, not only would I put the Tesla money into Apple stock, but I would funnel massive amounts of more money into Apple stock in the short term over the next few months, because then at that point, you're getting the upside of Apple's business model, which and I feel is undervalued. Then you get the upside of Tesla's business model inside of Apple in there. And at that point, it's just a steal, you know, far and away. Now, here's the thing I believe is a much more realistic possibility, in my personal opinion, a much more realistic possibility that I think would be intelligent for both companies to do is for a company like Apple to go ahead and invest, make like a 10% ownership stake or a 15% ownership stake into Tesla. Non-voting shares, so Elon Musk doesn't have the risk of, oh, Tesla could outvote us or something like that or get shareholders. Non-voting shares, very similar to what Microsoft did in Apple back in 97, 98 time rise, okay? Tesla's at a stage where they don't necessarily need a ton more money, but it would be helpful, okay? So Apple, let's say, takes a 10% ownership stake in Tesla. They give them, let's say, $10 billion or $7 billion or something like that. That's $7 or $10 billion that Elon Musk can go ahead and fund more gigafactories out there and get those up and rolling for Model Y. Get the China one built maybe even faster. Get the Europe one up and running as fast as possible, okay? And maybe even get another new one in the United States, or just continue the build out of the Reno gigafactory. So in my perspective, I think the smartest idea for both companies would not be a full-on acquisition, but would be an investment by Apple. I think Apple would make a ton of money on that investment over time. I think from Tesla's perspective, it would be ingenious, especially if they could get non-voting shares, because they would get a ton of cash, you know, a huge capital infusion by a great company who wants them to succeed because they want their investment to get bigger. So in my opinion, it's a win-win if they did something like a 10% ownership stake or 15% ownership stake. That, in my opinion, is the best move for both companies. We'll see if anything actually happens there. But in my opinion, they should. It just totally makes sense for both sides to you know, Apple to make an investment on them of a 10% ownership stake or 15% ownership stake. So then Tesla just has a massive amount of cash to go ahead and fund these future gigafactories and things like that. So anyways, I want to know your guys' opinion on all this. Do you think it's possible that Apple could acquire Tesla? What do you think about my opinion as far as Apple making an investment in Tesla? Do you like that? Do you think that's a good idea? I would love to hear from you guys in that comment section as always. Thank you for watching and have a great day.